For a short while, OTK was the largest, most influential group on all of Twitch. They had virtually every big streamer under their roster, and their events attracted live view counts in the hundreds of thousands. But they would soon fall just as quickly and violently as they rose to prominence. This video isn't meant to be an expose on any individual member, but a documentation of that collapse. After spending several years as just an idea, in October 2020, the org was officially founded and given the name One True King by 5 friends: Asmongold, Tips, Rich Campbell, S-Fand, and Mizkif. While they sat around the fire and announced this new project, it's hard to say if any of them knew just how much their lives would irreversibly change in the coming years. On the same day, they announced OTK had acquired a professional World of Warcraft team, although the team would only place 5th in the 2021 AWC, and the roster was sold to Team Liquid a few months later. The true power of OTK wouldn't come from professional esports teams, but from the unmatched events and shows they'd helped their members create. The concept of having any sort of structure, let alone a whole production crew for a live stream, was mostly unheard of at the time. It also helped that their roster of streamers started off incredibly strong and only got better over the years. By mid-2022, they had signed J-Schlatt, Imaru, and Sodapoppin', just to name a few. The things they were able to accomplish in these 2 years since their founding were nothing short of monumental. But this was the absolute peak of OTK. From this point forward, things would only get progressively worse for the company. But before we talk about their collapse, who even owns OTK anyways? It might sound like a dumb question. I mean, isn't it obvious? While OTK is very public about referring to certain members as owners, the reality is a bit more complicated. Orgs like OTK usually require a lot of capital to start and a lot of experience that these 5 just didn't have. The logical conclusion is that they must have had help from outside investors. And because OTK isn't a publicly traded company, seeing who owns what isn't easily available. If you look into it, the first thing you'll see is a registration in Texas filed by Rich Campbell. So Rich Campbell owns OTK. Case closed, right? Well, if you look closer, you'll notice the filing is for a branch of a pre-existing company. OTK wasn't originally incorporated in Texas like they claim. It was actually founded in Delaware. This alone isn't super alarming. It's a tactic many businesses use to dodge taxes. It also isn't clear who originally filed in Delaware, and even if it were, that wouldn't necessarily mean they owned a substantial part of the company. At this point, I hit a dead end. All I really had to go off of is what they publicly claimed or joked about, and if we did that, their corporate structure would look something like this. Maybe this isn't far from reality, but something about it just doesn't feel right. Streamers can barely clean their own room, let alone run an org. It's likely there was outside help from the very beginning, but the only investment that was publicly disclosed happened in mid-2022, when a company called We Play Esports bought an unknown portion of OTK. We Play Esports said that with this partnership, they'd be able to offer OTK more spaces and tools for events. If you look into them, you'll find they were also registered in Delaware. But digging any further is where things get a little weird. You see, We Play Esports is a subsidiary of a Ukrainian company named Tekia. This is already a little bizarre that a Ukrainian company is heavily investing in a Texas-based streaming organization, but it gets weirder. Tekia openly claims to be heavily supporting the Ukrainian military, using revenue and resources from all the companies they own, including OTK. Their support for the military goes beyond just humanitarian efforts. It also includes supplying them with ammunition, technology, and vehicles. They also own a drone company that claims to have the largest fleet of UAVs in Ukraine. It's safe to assume a large portion of revenue they get from their investment in OTK goes directly to funding the war. I'm not here to argue if this is a good thing or not. That's far beyond the scope of this video and incredibly nuanced, but the nature of this relationship alone is extremely unusual. This would be like if Lockheed Martin or Raytheon suddenly became a big investor in FaZe Clan. Something about this just doesn't add up. But while it definitely raises a lot of questions, Tekia isn't the reason OTK fell apart. When most people think of OTK, they don't think of investment firms or businessmen. They think of the individual streamers that are the face of the company, like Mizkif. By far the most visible member of the group, he's usually seen hosting events and important announcements on his stream. Whatever you may think of Twitch culture, for a time Mizkif was the epicenter of it. He saw massive growth reacting to popular clips and drama on the livestream fail subreddit, often with his girlfriend at the time, Maya, who was growing alongside him. Just after founding OTK, he moved into a mansion in Texas and brought several of his friends with him, like Russell, Zoil, and Slick, letting them live with him and Maya. His streams also evolved from reacting to drama on Reddit to getting directly involved in it, often as a mediator. While not the biggest member of OTK, Mizkif carried the org on his back to its peak. As his channel grew from averaging 10,000 viewers a stream to over 40,000, the company grew with him. For many people, OTK and Mizkif were inseparable. If something bad were to happen to one, the other would suffer. And unfortunately, in September 2022, that's exactly what happened. In a heated Twitter thread regarding the future of gambling content on Twitch, Mizkif replied to another large streamer, Trainwreck's TV, saying he should have been banned years ago for an alleged crypto scam. Trainwreck's response would leave people speechless.
Are you going to send Maya Maya and Mitch to railroad and blackmail me like you did those girls to cover up those sexual assaults, you fucking scumbag piece of shit. You want to come at me and make shit up, then you better be sure you don't live in a glass house, you insecure. I'm lost.
I don't even... Holy shit.
He followed up by saying, "Let me be even more clear. Mizkif didn't assault the women, he orchestrated the cover-up for his friends." After seeing this, Mizkif panicked and quickly deleted his reply. To say people watching from the sidelines were confused would be an understatement. Just a few hours later, a small streamer named Adriana Lee would go live on Twitch. She outlined a pattern of creepy behavior going back years that she endured from Mizkif's best friend and roommate at the time, Slick.
"Are you ever gonna come to Texas?" "Yes, I want to move there when I get partnered." "When you move there, we can hang. Hee hee. Where are you gonna sleep?" I said, "On the fridge." "Damn, what the hell? You might get cold." "No, it's hella comfy." "Shit, I see you. I guess I got the bed to myself." GG. "Wanna sleep in my bed, idiot?"
This escalated to an instance of sexual assault on January 19th, 2020, in which Slick allegedly groped her while she was passed out at a party.
I, was at a party, fell asleep, got touched by Crazy Slick. He was, quote, checking my pulse by touching my neck and chest area and trying to feel my heartbeat. And if anyone knows anatomy of a woman, your heart is on your boob. There's multiple people in the room, but 2 of them were my good friends, and they said, "Please get away from her. You don't need to do that." He left the room, came back multiple times, had to be told not to touch me multiple times. I heard the next day because obviously I was asleep. I was very uncomfortable, but I knew as a smaller Twitch streamer that no one would give a shit on what I said.
Adriana would stay silent about everything for over a year until another streamer, Novaru, would vaguely mention that Slick was creepy and she had heard stories about him.
"I was on John's stream. He tried to add Slick to a call and I said I was uncomfortable. He asked why. I said because I thought Slick was creepy. So then I clarified things by going into not detail, but describing the 3 incidents of encounters that I've had that are the reason that I feel uncomfortable. I want him to just understand what he did was uncomfortable and not do those things in the future. I want to be comfortable if we were in the same environment to not worry about being drunk around him."
Novaru, however, wasn't the only one aware of the incident with Slick. As the story goes, Mizkif and his friends were also aware of the allegations, and when they got wind that Adriana was planning on posting her story on Twitter, Mizkif sent his girlfriend Maya and his friend Mitch to her house, trying to pressure her into downplaying the situation, which worked. The Twitlonger posted on July 6th of that year specified she didn't think that Slick had assaulted her. Later, it would be revealed that this was something Maya had specifically pressured her to include.
So we probably had a conversation that was like, "Are you sure you want to do this? Do you want to say anything, or do you just want to do it anonymously?" Something like that, right? She said that she wanted to come out with a statement, so I said okay. And I asked her if she thought that Slick raped her or sexually assaulted her. At the time, she said no. So I said, "Okay, could you include that in your Twitlonger then?"
Over the next year, the situation publicly subsided, while privately Slick was blackballing Adriana from streamer events and parties.
I'm like shadow banned from that whole group. And the thing that sucks is like, I'm friends with these bigger streamers. They know I'm right? And they've reached out to me and like, "Are you okay?" Whatever. But they can't be seen in public with me. They can't collaborate with me because at the end of the day, if they do, guess what happens? Slick goes in and is like, "I don't want you around her anymore." And Slick has the power to, because Slick can cut him off from this Mizkif circle jerk, which they all are like grasping to get in, you know what I mean?
All of this had been brushed under the rug until now. Following her stream, Adriana made a thread on Twitter showcasing other girls' experience with Slick. From the screenshots posted, nobody had it as bad as her, but it displayed a clear and long-standing pattern of behavior. While all this was happening, Slick was asleep. He had just finished a 19-day subathon on Twitch a few hours earlier. When he woke up, he posted on Twitter saying he'd be getting a lawyer and to, quote, learn from the Johnny Depp situation. He then deactivated his Twitter account. Later that night, a call between Mizkif, Trainwreck, and a few other large streamers would be leaked to Destiny, who streamed it.
I remember the whole day. It was one of the scariest days of my life. My best friend in the whole world, Slick, people are saying he's about to get canceled. I run in his room, Maya's crying, I'm freaking the fuck out, I'm hyperventilating. We're all trying to figure out what the fuck we can do for my best friend, right? And people were telling us that, yo, Adriana Lee's about to come out with some shit. So then what I did is I tried to get answers. I tried to get, what is Adriana Lee thinking? What is going on here? What's happening to my best friend? I wanted to know.
So let me get this straight. You wake up in the morning and Adriana wants to come out about Crazy Slick. So your instant reaction as innocent good guy Mizkif is, let me send Maya, a trusted and liked girl that can be trusted and related to, over to the house of Adriana. They go over there and you want to claim to me the day that she wants to come out, you send 2 people to her house to quote unquote get more information, and then out of your hands, they acted on free will, to go and threaten on your behalf Adriana to write a lesser version of the twit longer for no reason at all because you believe Slick did do it, but he was your best friend and you wanted to play it right. I'm asking you.
Yes, I was ready to lose Slick that day, and yes, that is
He's doing the same line again.
Then wait for the tweet if you want information. Why are you going before the tweet comes out?
Because we didn't know anything. We barely even knew that there was a tweet.
That's not your business to know.
When your best friend is getting canceled, man, I'm sorry you want to act. I'm sorry you just want to act.
That act is inappropriate.
Hold on, we've got a Mitch clip on his stream.
Give the chat a yes or no answer. Did Miz explicitly give direction to you and Maya to go to Adriana's house and to quote unquote downplay the situation or find a way to save Slick's ass?
No. The answer to that is yes.
All of this together paints a pretty bleak picture of Mizkif knowingly covering up and minimizing a sexual assault perpetrated by his best friend. But this wasn't the only controversy he was dealing with at the time. Capitalizing on the wave of hate towards Mizkif and his friends, Ice Poseidon decided to leak their old DMs. On July 2nd, at 3:12 p.m., Mizkif would send him, "Yo, there's a in the car." To this day, it's unclear who was in the car with Mizkif. To longtime viewers of his, this wasn't surprising in the slightest. Mizkif had a well-documented edgy past working for and collaborating with Ice Poseidon. It wasn't a secret, nor was it representative of the content or jokes he'd make today, but it did muddy the water and take focus away from the main allegations. The next day, OTK released a statement. They started off by saying they strived to create a company that embodied their values as gamers. Fitting with those values, they planned to hire a law firm to conduct a third-party investigation, and during that investigation, Mizkif would be placed on leave. They ended by saying that OTK condemns bad things, which is very brave. While my heart goes out to Jeff, their social media manager, this response sucked. There's no such thing as a third-party investigation if you're paying the same people investigating you. It's a clear conflict of interest, and especially meaningless if you don't even bother releasing the full results of that investigation, which we'll get to later. Mizkif also released his own statement claiming Slick was told to move out of his house as soon as he could. 20 days later, Mizkif would go live on Twitch for the first time since everything happened. What followed was an absolute fever dream, where he vowed to not talk about anything until Hassan stopped watching.
I'm not going to talk until Hassan stops watching me. I'm not going to do it. Until Hassan stops watching me, I am not going to.
I'm not stopping.
Bro, you went up 40,000 viewers, Hassan.
I'm still watching. Get to the fucking point. Stop stalling.
Then he played Mario 64.
All right, everybody. Today we're going to play Mario 64.
After that, he watched a video about office sexual harassment.
Sexual harassment is against the law. And it's against your company's policy.
You make it look worse by making a joke out of it? How am I making it a joke?
Then he got a tattoo and joked about being, quote, good at cover-ups.
One of my things is I am a master at cover-ups and reconstruction.
Me too, for 4 years.
Excuse me?
I think this will not look good like this.
And then ended by saying he couldn't say anything because the investigation was ongoing and it was a legal matter.
Other than that, I don't want to talk about this. Like I said, this isn't Twitch drama. This is serious allegations, and I can't talk about it.
He then quickly deleted the VOD. For the rest of the investigation, Mizkif would continue streaming and even went to Japan for a while. Finally, on December 31st, just a few hours before New Year's, OTK released the findings of their investigation. They had hired the Texas-based law firm Jackson Walker LLP to conduct the investigation, claiming to have given them free reign to gather all relevant facts and conduct witness interviews. As expected, the law firm found no evidence that Mizkif tried to cover up or minimize the sexual assault of Adriana Lee. Despite the good news, OTK still decided to suspend Mizkif from the board of directors and place him on monitored probation until he demonstrates he's capable of upholding the company's values. This is because of that goofy stream earlier. They ended by saying Mizkif was otherwise reinstated as a member of OTK, which was followed by the usual meaningless corporate garbage about equality and inclusivity. While I don't doubt their findings, the fact that they didn't publish any of these relevant facts or witness interviews doesn't exactly build a lot of confidence in their methods. Furthermore, no amount of internal investigations, suspensions, or probations mean anything as long as Mizkif owns substantial stock in OTK. A great example of what I mean in practice recently took place in the WWE. Vince McMahon had several sex crime allegations against him and was forced to resign as CEO by the board of directors. When the board refused to reinstate him, he simply fired the board and put his own friends in their positions instead. He then re-elected himself as CEO. This was possible because despite everything, he was still the majority shareholder. All the positions and titles are meaningless compared to who actually owns the company. That's part of why knowing who really owns OTK is so important. Hopefully one day we can get a more detailed answer to that question. While Mizkif had a momentary boost in viewers curious about what had happened, his viewership has since been cut in half and is still slowly declining. He also lost over 70,000 followers that still haven't come back. Not every controversy has a lasting impact on someone's career, but months later, this situation is still haunting Mizkif, overshadowing pretty much everything else he's ever done. on. It remains a huge stain on OTK as a whole. The same, however, can't be said about another member of OTK, Sear. He seems to have escaped all the controversy surrounding his org unscathed, and that's how it should be, right? I mean, he had no involvement in any of the allegations, so why would he be affected? Well, in the midst of everything going on with Mizkif, people began looking into other members of OTK. What resurfaced about Sear was genuinely shocking, and I'm surprised it hasn't been talked about more. Sear only joined OTK in 2021, but he has a very deep history online.
Hey, people of YouTube. Sear here.
The oldest video that's still public on his channel was posted all the way back in 2006. He got his first big break making skits not too dissimilar from the content Shane Dawson was making at the time. I was in middle school when I first found him, through a video he made with Jax Films. A lot of his older videos aren't around anymore, but by 2010 he had developed a close friendship with another big skit YouTuber at the time, Onision. If you know anything about Onision, this is already a bit concerning. I'm not going to get too carried away, but for context, Onision is currently being sued for grooming, sex trafficking, and distributing illegal content, among other things. Sear and Onision lived together, working on videos all the way up until late 2016, when they had a falling out over who Sear voted for in the presidential election.
He's acting like I ended the friendship, but this is like about maybe the 4th or 5th time he's ended his friendship with me over something petty. And like everybody thought that I voted for Donald Trump. He was like, "You're basically voting for Trump," and then everybody thought I was voting for Trump.
I didn't vote for Trump. Was so stupid.
I live in California. It's a blue state. I voted for state issues. I didn't vote for the two-party system because I had the luxury of doing that in my state. And he was just like, "You're why Trump won." And I'm like, "No, I'm not." I voted for state issues. Study the fucking electoral system.
After moving out of his place with Onision, Sear moved in with 3 other people. His girlfriend Dasha, a YouTuber named Edwin, and Edwin's girlfriend Mina. Mina was also Sear's ex-girlfriend, and they had a weird polyamorous thing going on at the time. There's a lot of goofy details that have been meticulously documented by internet freaks if you care. What's important to know is, for whatever reason, these two couples had a very public falling out. After moving out in late 2017, Edwin would post on Twitter alleging Sear had hit his girlfriend Dasha. This would lead to Onision, of all people, deleting most of his stuff with Sear and making a now deleted video denouncing him.
What I'm concerned about is whether or not Sear is going to be finding himself accused of hitting more people, and if he is a person who actually hits people.
A few years later, a thread appeared on Twitter. The thread explained how Dasha had created a group chat with Sear and a few other people, including the creator of the thread, who was 16 at the time. The group chat was used to talk shit about Sear's ex-roommates, Mina and Edwin. Dasha would allegedly send revenge porn of Mina, along with leaking her phone number. She also asked the 16-year-old to write erotic fanfiction about Mina and Edwin as an epic troll. At times, Dasha admitted to messaging the 16-year-old while having sex with Sear, and even sent her screenshots of their sexts. Keep in mind that while all this happened, Sear was fully aware of Dasha's actions and was in the group chat actively encouraging her. At one point, Sear and Dasha offered to fly the 16-year-old out to LA. At the time, Sear was 27 years old. The thread contains several images and videos that are now lost to time. We'd just have to take the creator of this thread at their word, if it weren't for the fact that Dasha herself replied apologizing and indirectly admitted to everything. This is already pretty bad, but it gets worse. Fast forward a couple years to the Mizkif controversy. Edwin was on stream talking about what had happened when he dropped this.
Guys, Sear is a big time groomer. He fucked with a lot of girls. Like he took a lot of advantage of his fucking it's fucking weird. When we were friends, like he was 25 and he was like dating a 17-year-old. It was fucking weird. If you guys follow Sear on Twitch, you're following a fucking pedophile. I'm sorry. I mean, not a pedophile, just a hebephile, right? Let's be accurate here.
This seems to be in reference to a totally different girl than the one from the Twitter thread. I wouldn't call this a closed case, but it's really not looking good for Sear. At best, he was aware and complicit of some really awful shit. And unfortunately, this wouldn't be the last case of sexual misconduct to come to light within OTK. Rich Campbell wasn't always a streamer. He spent most of his career shoutcasting anything he could get paid for, from Call of Duty to Rocket League, but he particularly enjoyed commentating World of Warcraft. By 2017, he had secured a more permanent position, officially hosting events for Blizzard. That same year, Rich started a podcast focused on WoW news and updates called Allcraft, with an up-and-coming streamer named Asmongold. The next year, Asmon would introduce him to his friend Esfan, and the trio really hit it off. So much so that in 2019, they all moved into a house together. This is where the first discussions about starting an org together took place. A few months later, Rich's casting career would be cut short when he woke up to the news that he had been fired from Blizzard.
Whew. Hi, good morning. Kind of a weird way to wake up. I do want to say thank you everybody who's saying a bunch of nice things and shit on Twitter. The support is definitely felt, and it means a lot. It looks like I'm probably not going to be a part of the AWC, at least for the next season. I'm truly thankful for everything that happened over the past 4 years of doing stuff with WoW, and yeah, I'll definitely tell you guys more soon.
Many notable members of the WoW community came out with supportive messages to Rich. Over his years of commentating, he had built up a lot of respect and admiration. Possibly resulting from this outpouring of support, he was soon back working with Blizzard again. Although this didn't last very long. In mid-2020, Rich would be fired from Blizzard for a second time, and the community's response was much more mixed. Another World of Warcraft streamer replied saying, "I wonder if it had anything to do with this," linking to Rich's most popular clip at the time.
Take a break, Richard? You realize I was in a great mood? And I played the game for 5 minutes and I'm here. I don't need a break. I need to uninstall WoW. This is a game made for anyone who's playing. Look at you, idiot. Look at you, you idiot. Why are you playing this game? You fucking dumb shit. You fucking moron sheeps. You fucking idiots. You dumb fucks. Why are you playing this fucking shit?
3 days after announcing he had been fired from Blizzard, Rich said he wouldn't be renewing his contract to commentate for the Call of Duty League either. Instead, he would focus on streaming full-time. This proved to be a good decision as he quickly saw massive growth on Twitch. Soon, he and his friends announced the creation of OTK, and the next 2 years were all uphill for him. In 2022, he started dating Mia Malkova, and the two of them were maybe a little too open about their relationship.
What's Rich into? I bet you Rich is into some shit.
He has a pregnant fetish. He really wants to get me pregnant.
He has a what?
He wants to get me pregnant.
After seeing this, a girl named Azalea Lexi would post, "I know Mia isn't lying about Rich Campbell's pregnant fetish because he said he wanted to get me pregnant while he assaulted me and then sent me into the streets at 3 a.m. by myself with nowhere to go." Rich was on stream the moment he saw these tweets. 19 hours later, Azalea would elaborate further, saying Rich and I had a very on and off friendship and relationship for 4 years that started towards the end of his career on the Call of Duty desk. During those 4 years, he made it extremely clear that he only viewed me as a sexual object. But when I would confront him about it, I would get love-bombed and gaslit into thinking he cared about me and wanted to be with me. She went on to give several examples of times she had to reiterate that she didn't want to have sex with Rich. This went on until January 2022 when she was in New York with her friends. This is when Rich, who had an apartment in New York, would text her, "Are you in New York? Would be cool to hang." She replied, "I would catch up with you, but it's okay if you're already in bed." Rich asked if she wanted to come to his place. Clearly hesitant, she replied, "It's okay. I don't think that's something I'm comfortable with." Offering a safe middle ground to meet, Rich suggested meeting in a public space at his apartment building to watch a movie. Cautiously, she agreed. She writes that when she got there, he kept attempting to get me to lay on him, and I repeatedly said, "I'm not here to sleep with you, and I don't want that." After trying to speak to him for an hour about our relationship and the awful way he treated me, he said we couldn't stay in that room and needed to go up to his apartment, per the apartment rules. I said I didn't trust that, and he promised me that was a situation, that nothing would happen, and he was respecting the boundary I set. We get upstairs, and he starts talking about how hot I would be pregnant. Out of fear of getting this video age restricted, I can't read the rest of what she wrote. She describes how Rich forced himself on her and then told her to leave. The next day, she left New York and never spoke to Rich again. Just 7 hours after the allegations were posted on Twitter, Rich resigned from OTK. It's unclear if he's still a major shareholder in the company or if he ever was to begin with. The next day, Asmongold went live, asking people to stop harassing Azalea on Twitter. He also alluded to there being more going on behind the scenes that he couldn't talk about.
"I read everything. I also know a few other things as well. This is not drama. This is not getting canceled. These are crimes. I can't answer 100 different questions. I don't want to do that because obviously I don't want to compromise other people's privacy or anything like that. I don't want to go through and explain everything because, again, a lot of these things are very serious, and I just don't want to do that. I want to just let the evidence and everything speak for itself.
Several days after Asmon's stream, Casey Tron would post a tweet saying, "Rich Campbell has several other victims," with this clip attached.
"It was relayed to me by Lexi that Asmon communicated to her there were several other victims and that there are corroborating factors in each story. She is also aware of one other victim that has a similar theater story to hers."
Clearly Asmon, and likely the rest of the OTK leadership, know more than they're letting on. And there's plenty of valid reasons why they might not want to publicize everything they've seen or been told. Still, I can't help but ask, how long did they know? And were there other allegations that were ignored? I can't be the only one who's beginning to see a pattern here. leader. 7 days later, it was announced that Jay Schlatt would also be leaving OTK. While it could have been for a multitude of reasons, the timing of the move highly suggests that it was related. In his last post, Rich said he needed some time to collect his thoughts, but would share his side soon. As of making this video 2 months later, soon still hasn't come. In January, OTK lost another member. Having spent less than a year in the org, Bruce announced he was leaving after having a falling out with Mizkif.
Mizkif, stop texting my phone. You are blocked, bitch ass. Don't ever come at me like that ever a day in your fucking life. I did way more for you than I was even supposed to. I should have left when your bitch ass got exposed.
In recent months, OTK seems to be trying to do everything they can to diversify their brand. In June 2022, OTK invested in a small California-based game company, promising to develop and promote their own original game. The same month, they filed a patent for a computer building company called Starforge Systems. You might have already heard of them since they've had some minor controversy of their own regarding high prices and low build quality, though it seems a lot of that has since been resolved. There's a chance these businesses grow to be wildly successful one day. There is also a chance of redemption for anyone I've talked about in this video, however slim it may be. But the damage to their org as a whole has already been done. Maybe some companies are more than just the sum of their parts. But when it comes to OTK, I'm not so sure. To be honest, I'm surprised they made it as far as they did. Out of the 5 original founding members, only 3 remain untarnished in the public eye. In total, 2 members were accused of sex crimes, 3 if you include Slick, 1 was accused of covering up those sex crimes, and 2 more left, likely as a result of everything. Considering OTK has only officially been an org since late 2020, these numbers are staggering. Through researching this video, it's been made clear to me that leadership at OTK have displayed a clear and consistent lack of judgment, and repercussions that are far too little, too late, or entirely non-existent.